There is a book for every emotion, season, reason, interest, and topic. I guess I really like choice. I will try to steer away from the points I made in my Cultivating a Personal Library video and show you some more books, but also provide a discussion on some of those books found on my shelves. In this video, we will look at some nonfiction, specifically the books on death, the occult, and pop culture. Quite an iconic trio. We will start with a sinister topic, true crime, which I find to be the most interesting when it comes to my personal collection. It's a macabre obsession I've had since I was a child, and we can definitely thank cable television for that. Unsolved Mysteries and America's Most Wanted, just to name a couple. I find these to be good resources if you're interested in forensics and psychological profiling. The A to Z Encyclopedia of Serial Killers by Harold Schechter. Deranged, also by Harold Schechter. This is all about Albert Fish and his extreme life. Sexual Homicide, Patterns and Motives. I find this to be an excellent reference. Party Monster by James St. James. I loved this book as a teenager and in my early 20s. It's very sensational, very over the top. The Devil's Knot by Mara Leverett is the penultimate book on the West Memphis 3 case, in which 3 teenage boys were wrongfully convicted of murdering 3 young boys in a quote-unquote ritualistic fashion. Part of their conviction was because of how they dressed, especially Damien Eccles, who was deemed the mastermind. He had dyed black long hair, wore predominantly black, and listened to metal. Along with that, he didn't get along with any of the citizens of his little town. It was considered a modern-day witch hunt. The 3 boys were targeted for the murders, and a clumsy court proceeding followed, with quack experts who got mail-order degrees, tampered with evidence, and an agenda to put these miscreants away at any cost. Unfortunately, they were locked up for 18 years. Damien Eccles was put into death row, and they did get off on an Alford plea, which essentially means nothing. The state didn't take any responsibility for their botched legal proceedings. To learn more, check out Paradise Lost and West of Memphis. The Anatomy of Evil by Dr. Michael Stone. He also had a TV show called Most Evil. Hunting Humans by Elliot Layton is one of my favorite reference books that I can't stop talking about. If you're interested in forensics and psychological profiling, I would definitely check this out. It strays away from the sensationalism that many true crime books fall under, and it gives you the cold, hard facts. There isn't a stylized narrative in this book, as you might see in other true crime books. If you're curious to learn more about the psychology of different criminals, this is the ultimate book on the topic. Female Serial Killers by Peter Vronsky. This is another good reference book. He also has one just titled Serial Killers, which is just predominantly male murderers. One of the most fascinating topics I've come across is the Columbine shooting, which happened April 20th, 1999. It was the second most covered case in the 90s, right behind the O.J. Simpson trial. I think having a picture and context of the lives that were affected is helpful to attempt an understanding as to why people are driven to act violently. There's a lot of information and misinformation regarding this case, but here are some good resources that have some trustworthy information. A Mother's Reckoning, which is an informative but very difficult read. This was written by Sue Klebold, who was Dylan Klebold's mother. No Easy Answers by Brooks Brown, who was Dylan's friend and Eric's on and off friend. This one is the book I would recommend reading if you were at all interested in the case and who the perpetrators were. Nobody Left to Hate, Teaching Compassion After Columbine is a book I would highly recommend to a very wide population. I think it's incredibly important. And Why Kids Kill, which isn't entirely dedicated to the shooting, but does paint a picture as to why these incidents happen. On a related topic, books on death are equally interesting. Spook by Mary Roach tackles science and the afterlife. Stiff, also by Mary Roach, offers a very hard and fast, unflinching look at death. I would also recommend not eating your lunch while reading this book. From Here to Eternity by Caitlin Doughty is a quick read about death practices around the world. Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, also by Caitlin Doughty, is her memoir about working in a funeral home as a mortician. Working Stiff is another good example on the topic. Although not my favorite for altogether narrative, her experiences are incredibly fascinating. Next is Beyond the Dark Veil by the Thanatos Archive. This is the book that got me into death culture. I highly recommend it. I also recommend following them. They have an Instagram as well as a Facebook. They also have a membership service. This book is incredibly eye-opening. It is all about post-mortem photography. Here I am flipping through the pages quite clumsily just to give you a little bit of a taste. So, if this bothers you, please skip ahead. Walter Potter's Curious World of Taxidermy. Walter Potter was an incredibly well-known taxidermist whose subjects were often kittens and bunnies. Again, here I am, quickly showing you some of his work. They are quite creepy and cute though. Very curious little creations. Taxidermy. And here I am clumsily, very awkwardly, hunched over this book, trying to show you some really neat photos. I'm very much into taxidermy. Oh, and here we go. Here's my dream room right there. Yes. I'm really into taxidermy. I've actually performed taxidermy once. It was horrifying, but an eye-opening experience nonetheless. To walk away from the topic, because I went a little hard and fast with that, we have my secret love, pop culture. Oh, I love pop culture. Here we have The X-Files. This is one of my favorite shows. Two of my cats are named after Mulder and Scully. We also have Buffy the Vampire Slayer, another one of my favorite shows. Here we have several of the books. I also have a lot of the mass market novelizations. They're not shown here, but I have, I think, almost all of them. Next, we have music, memoirs, and biographies. They are a favorite as well. Being so in love with music. When I was a child, I used to write songs thinking that I was going to become a famous singer-songwriter. That did not pan out because I'm a terrible singer. However, I read as much as I can about the debauchery and I live for it. It is insane. It's wild. The crazier it is, the more I love it. We have Marilyn Manson, The Long Hard Road Out of Hell. This was fucking crazy. One of my favorite memoirs, hands down. It's filthy, wild, depraved, but fuck, it was so much fun. Scott Weiland with Not Dead and Not for Sale. Please Kill Me, The Oral History of Punk. This is the book to read. Scar Tissue by Anthony Kiedis. The Spice Girls. I have a few of the books here. This one I wrecked. It was well loved. This is another one. I love the Spice Girls so much. You can see my fascination with old Hollywood with the pile of memoirs and biographies that I cannot stop buying. Here we have books on Ingrid Bergman, Greta Garbo, Vivian Leigh, Elizabeth Taylor, Gregory Peck, Humphrey Bogart, and Lauren Bacall, Cary Grant, Ava Gardner, Clark Gable. Oh my god, I love Clark Gable. Ugh. Grace Kelly, Zsa Zsa Gabor, Marilyn Monroe, Audrey Hepburn. Speaking of, I have to mention one of my favorite books, The Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Susan. She fantastically showcased the romanticizing of Hollywood with the glitz and the glamour, and then contrasted by the evil, lecherous lifestyle it ends up becoming. A lifestyle that would eat at you away slowly until they got a newer, better model. Expendable, barely worth knowing when you've been used up. Although penned by critics as being a book for teenage girls, I would argue that isn't the case. It's a fantastic book that has a lot more depth than its contemporaries. Further, good films to go along with it would be Sunset Boulevard and Mulholland Drive, as well as a quick read of Marilyn Monroe's life. Judy Garland's numerous documentaries would also be an eye-opening experience, as well as learning more about early Hollywood, especially before unions. Occult, witchcraft, Wicca, and pagan books. I have a diverse number of books ranging from the occult, witchcraft, Wicca, and astrology, and anything in between. I often can't get the book I want physically, so I usually resort to ebooks, so I don't really have as many books as I would like. Just a quick point for context. I really adore this topic and have for most of my life, being completely outcasted as a child and tirelessly bullied for most of my scholastic career. It called out to me when I was most alone. It also intensified with shows, movies, and books. Being called the child or daughter of Satan hundreds of times by different unrelated people just pushed me to the edge to practice. I mean, really. I have been practicing on and off, but never really diligently practiced since I was a teenager. I love this section so much, and I thought it would be appropriate to share some of my favorite books and reference material. The History of Witchcraft and The History of Witchcraft and Demonology by Montague Summers. Buckland's Complete Book of Witchcraft. I highly recommend this one for beginners or anyone in between. Esoteric Astrology. The Satanic Bible, the world's best self-help book. Dictionary of Demons. This is a well-loved book. The ABCs of Magical Charms. This one is absolutely the best reference book I have on my shelf. I absolutely love it. There's amulets, talismans, anything in between. The Doctrine and Ritual of High Magic. And lastly, Grimoires, a history of magic books. I have several books on history and historical figures. We have got Marie Antoinette, the Romanovs, we've got Cleopatra, Mary, Bloody Mary. You know we love her here. I also have books on psychology, as well as Letters and Diaries by Anais Nin, Franz Kafka, and Vincent van Gogh, or Van Gogh, if you're nasty. Here are some more books on psychology: Snakes in Suits, Brain on Fire, Quiet. We also have books on beauty and just some other different types of books. We've got People's History, Malcolm X. We've got some Anne Fadiman books. Oh, we got the David Lynch memoir. Yeah, we got it all here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stick around for the end though. Hey everybody, thank you so much for sticking around till the very end of this video, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you'll be enjoying this series as well. However, if this wasn't your cup of tea, I completely understand, but don't worry, there will be so many more videos coming up on my bookshelves. For example, the next part will be sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and mystery. So I'm really looking forward to that as well, and I'll begin filming it immediately. And I hope that this will give me a lot more motivation to make more videos. However, if there is a type of video, or if there are any books that you would like me to read and to discuss or analyze, please let me know down below. But for now, I'm just focusing on doing my general bookshelf tour. So after the sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and mystery video, look forward to fiction, some YA, back to classics, maybe a little bit of extra nonfiction, and then some of my favorite book collections. I hope that you guys will stick around for that. There are so many books to get to and so very little time. So thank you again so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye!